Hello everybody. In the next chapter we are going to talk about improvisation on the cajon. I hope you find some ideas useful. Enjoy. To be honest, I think the best way to learn how to improvise is improvising. Taking improvisation class is almost like trying to find a shortcut to a long, straight road. The best shortcut will be always the road itself. Of course, there are good teachers with interesting methods that can help you. But in my opinion, improvising is one of those things that you learn by doing them a lot. Start doing terrible solos on top of the music that you have around. Keep doing that for 10 years and those solos will eventually stop being so terrible. Keep doing that for 10 more years and probably those solos start being interesting. Then someone will analyze your solos and realize a bunch of interesting, mathematically complex, polyrhythmic, advanced stuff. But I don't think starting analyzing mathematically complex, polyrhythmic stuff is going to help you a lot when you are a beginner. Enjoy yourself, be honest with what you are trying to do with your instrument. And if being honest starts being boring, then don't be honest and steal someone's licks. But have fun. Having fun with it for many, many years is the only way you become a decent improviser. And it's true that some information in the correct moment of your musical development might throw some light into your struggle to make your solos more interesting. So I'm just going to throw a few thoughts related to improvising that might help you somewhere along that long straight road that it's improvising, in the middle of which I am myself. Unless you're going to do a very abstract open solo, you don't want your bandmates to get lost in the middle of your improvisation. We have two scenarios. You are the only percussionist in the ensemble. In that case, you need to do the solo more inside the groove, we could say, or use some elements, side elements like a hi-hat or something in your feet or a ride or something that keeps time more clear while you improvise. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
The second scenario is when there's another drummer or another percussionist or a bump or something that makes the tempo very clear. I'm not saying you are allowed to get lost there, but it's true that you are more free to play with tempo and to go to weird places because you don't really have the responsibility of keeping time while improvising. The two exercises I've used the most using my feet are 1. Basic subdivision with a foot on a hi-hat, and 2. Playing clave with my foot. You have to do both with both feet. That training has worked for me when putting them together. So work on them separately and eventually you will be able to do them together. Of course, there's a muscular training to this, but the real work here must be done with some claves or your hands clapping the clave pattern and just singing. If you are not able to improvise singing while playing the clave, nothing interesting is going to come out from your improvising on the cajon with your clave in your foot. Once you are used to improvising with your voice over the clave, putting that on foot and cajon is not a hard task. you have to incorporate the clave to your inner pulse, like if it was a downbeat. So I'm going to show some exercises for getting independence with the clave. Okay, let's dedicate some time now to the 6/8 clave, which is similar to the 4/4 clave. Actually, the 4/4 comes from the 6/8 clave, from Bembe. The clave again can be 3/2 or 2/3. Let's do versus which is the 4/4 rumba clave in this case, okay? One, two, three, 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 tuck it, 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 tuck it.
Okay, we talked about the solo being the part where you are more free, but there are ideas that help me to organize and to approach a solo. So I'm going to share them with you. The first one is motivic development, which is something you've heard, I'm sure. It's very simple. It's basically don't jump from an idea to another completely different without developing a little bit the first one. And let that idea tell you in what direction to go next, right? So it's like your own solo is inspiring you. What people say about telling a story in a solo is not so much about thinking of a complete story with an ending from the beginning, but talking about something that makes sense, so you develop something. So if you are telling a story about a wolf, don't jump into a superhero in the next bar, you know. And my suggestion is, instead of knowing what to do in the whole solo, just build from the idea you just played and build from there and see what happens. Okay, my second suggestion or rule that affects all my solos in a way is get used to play over the bar line. We heard about it thousands of times, but really incorporate that to your language. The idea is not to start or end always your motifs on the beginning of the bar or even in the beginning of the 4 or 8 bars. You know, it's sort of like trakun kan kun kan karakata takatata tam pum purukutum ratatata ratatata kinkidika tratatata padum pum pum. In my opinion, it's kind of boring and also shows that you are not very comfortable with, you know, with the freedom of solo. I suggest getting used, you don't even need the cajon to train that, to do solos that go over the bar line, whatever. Trakum pin chin pam pum kichin kin chin pin tiring. Pankachin, pankachikirikin pankum rokototon kotototon kotototon kotochokin pankin chankin kankaran konkoto kinkirikan kinkachitun tun rankatat kititi kataka pin parakiriki pin 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 prakati praktum prakati praktum prakati praktra praktum pratu pripiti pakiti kiti chakirikin panchin kiriki tototon pa. You don't need the cajon to train that. If you work your head doing that, then if your hands are ready, you know, technically wise, you're ready to go. So remember that second suggestion. Don't end or begin at the beginning of the cycle. Okay, my third and last suggestion to do solos is to try to find a balance between head and soul or heart, you know. If you do solos that are too smart or you are thinking too much, in my case I feel they don't work as well. And also if you are very into it in the way that you put so much soul, energy, and heart, sometimes doesn't work either. It happens to me all the time. When you listen to the recording, you realize that when you are more balanced between interesting ideas and mental control all the time, but also some energy and some risk, then the solo is better. Is my suggestion.
Another frequently used tool to make a solo feel not monotonous and stand up from the rest of the tune is eventually switching the subdivision. Something as simple as changing to triplets when you have been playing the whole tune in straight 16ths will add an immediate interest to what you have to say. Also consider the other way around, playing straight 16ths when you are in a swang or shuffle tune.
Okay, the next example is very interesting because once you understand how it works, this applies to all odd meters. The thing is, we are going to do it with 7/8 or 7/4. I'm going to explain now with 7. The idea is we play a 7/4. This could be in 5/4 or 9/4, whatever. 7 quarter notes. We play them with our foot, okay? And then on top of that, we play a super simple pattern on the cajon in 7/4. So, doom, doom, chuck, doom, 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 chuck it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, okay? After a few bars doing that, the foot continues the same way, but we start playing a 7/8 pattern on the cajon, which is basically doing the same pattern we were playing, but double time, alright? But the foot keeps doing the same thing. This is the main point of the exercise because you are going to realize that at the end of the first 7/8, when you start the second 7/8, you find yourself crossed with your foot. That doesn't happen on even meters. It happens with odd meters only, okay? And then when you play the next 7/8, you finally or start the next cycle when the 7/4 starts, okay? In other words, you put two 7/8s inside of a 7/4, okay? That applies to all meters. And then after a few bars doing that, we're going to play a 7/16 lick, alright? So, where we played 7/4, then we played two 7/8s, and then we played four 7/16. This applies to all odd meters. In fact, bands like Avishai Cohen, the bass player, and many others, but for example him, they do that all the time. They use 5 a lot, and it's very interesting to see how sometimes Avishai is playing a 5/4 line, the drummer is playing a 5/8 groove, and maybe the piano is doing 5/2 chord progression or whatever. But you know, they fit each inside the other one, whatever. So let's check it out with the 7 and see how this works. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3,
A solo is an open space where you should be able to express yourself with no constraints. Enough technical, intellectual, cultural, and psychological limitations we have already to be adding more rules to it. That's why I don't want to go too deep in this topic. But it's true that different styles have different ways of expressing themselves. If we can say that a specific style is a language, we could also say that if you want to say something improvised or not, in that language you might at least want to use words that are understood in that context. I think that it's recommended to know at least the basic language of the styles you are playing. This being said, we have to admit that always sounding into the tradition is truly a way of limiting the improvisation. That's why my general approach to improvising in different specific styles could be explained with the following sentence. Tradition is a tool, not a rule. This means knowing the tradition of a style is something that will help you improvise inside a musical context and sound as expected in that style. But at the same time, being able of switching off the inside the style mode is the attitude of true creators that are in the search of pushing their expressive boundaries. So I'm going to share with you a few tips of what I call playing inside of some specific styles, like flamenco or Latin-oriented music. Nobody would be able to say that you made a bad solo if you do something musical interesting. But did it sound flamenco? What helps me sound flamenco is remembering where flamenco rhythmic motifs come from. The answer is flamenco dancing. Watch flamenco dancers and pay attention to their feet language. When you create a solo, think in their feet, with their typical licks and also physical limitations. Most of Latin folkloric music percussion variations have traditionally the same intention: make people dance. They give motifs that will inspire the dancer. So my suggestion is, when you want to make a solo that sounds inside the tradition in a style like rumba, salsa, cha-cha-cha, son, guaguancó, whatever, besides studying their typical licks, which is interesting, make motifs that would make somebody dance and that would make sense on tumbadoras, timbal or bongo, even though you're playing the cajon. Have in mind that certain degree of repetition and motif development is more than celebrated by dancers. This is just a personal opinion, but I would suggest trying to do music when soloing. Try to avoid making a compilation of your most amazing chops, all played one after the other. Chops are sometimes the worst enemy of creativity. Try this idea. Get inspired in what you just did. Start almost randomly and build from there. this chapter, we learned that improvising is perhaps the trickiest field to make rules. But there are things that certainly help. For example, being able to solo while keeping time, being able to solo while playing a steady pattern with your feet, being able to develop motifs and to get inspired by your own playing in real time, being able to play over the bar line without getting lost, being able to find a balance between brain and heart when improvising, being able to use tradition in your own benefit to get motifs that work in specific styles. And those are all very important skills to finally enjoy soloing and make people enjoy with your improvisations. Joder, qué chapa. Well, I hope you liked this chapter. You can find many other chapters in my YouTube channel. Also in my website and Facebook, you can find the index to all the other chapters. Keep posted. Adios.